The moment you disappear, everything changes. Not for you immediately, but for her. Even if she doesn't show it on day one, she barely reacts, not because she doesn't notice, but because she tells herself, this is just temporary. She assumes you'll check back in, that you'll fold like before, that your silence is just another one of those short-lived moments where you're trying to be distant. So she plays it cool. She scrolls her feed, posts something cute, maybe even throws a subtle jab with a quote about self-worth or not settling. But the silence keeps going, and that's when something subtle shifts. By day 2 or 3, she's still not texting, but now she's checking. She's opening your profile, watching your story, looking for any sign that you're still lingering because you always were before. She's not worried yet, but she's curious. That curiosity is the first crack in the wall. She starts replaying the last conversation in her head. Did she go too far? Did she say something that pushed you away? Why are you actually quiet this time? She won't admit it, not even to herself. But your silence is starting to take up space in her mind. Space she never thought you'd be strong enough to claim. See, the truth is, she was used to being the center, the one you tried to work things out with, the one you'd come back to even after tension or distance. But this time, you're not reaching out, not liking, not viewing, not reacting. That silence, it's not passive, it's power. And the more you hold it, the more her thoughts start turning on her, because now the fear creeps in, not that you're mad, but that you're finally done. And the moment that fear hits, everything changes. By the end of day 3 or 4, she's not just checking your profile, she's checking your energy. And that's where the internal tension starts building, because before, she could predict your patterns. She knew when you'd fold. She knew the point at which your silence would turn into a text, a like, or a just checking in message. And once you gave her that moment of weakness, her power was back. She'd exhale, smile, maybe not respond immediately, but deep down, she felt secure knowing she still had you. But now there's no check-in, no digital breadcrumb, no glimpse of you sitting in the background waiting for her to decide when to re-engage. And suddenly, she realizes something terrifying. You're no longer playing the same game. Now her mind starts to work overtime. It's not just, why hasn't he messaged? It's, who is he talking to instead? Is he finally over me? Did he meet someone who actually respects him? She'll never say it out loud, but these questions burn because your silence doesn't feel like distance anymore. It feels like disinterest. And that's what shakes her, because your energy used to orbit around her. You were steady, always there, predictable, even when things weren't perfect. And now you've vanished in a way that doesn't feel emotional or spiteful. It feels real. And that's the difference. Real. And that's the difference. You're not pretending to move on. You actually have. And she can feel that difference more than she expected. That's why the days are starting to feel longer now. Because she's not just missing your presence, she's missing the version of herself that felt important to you. And the longer you stay silent, the more that absence becomes a mirror to her choices, her treatment of you, her assumptions that you'd always be there no matter how distant, cold, or indecisive she was. And now that version of you, the one she took for granted, is gone. Not because you're playing a role, but because you've actually leveled up, quietly, without needing her to watch, without needing her to clap. And that's the part she can't control. The fact that you're finally unreachable in all the ways that matter. By the time day 5 or 6 hits, something unfamiliar starts growing inside her. Doubt. Not just doubt in the situation, but in herself. You see, most people assume women only regret after weeks or months. But when the silence is real, when your detachment is felt, not forced, her internal dialogue starts shifting fast. She begins comparing, not out loud, not to her friends, but privately, where it matters most, in the quiet moments. She compares how you made her feel to what she's feeling now. She remembers the emotional safety, the conversations, your calm presence that didn't demand anything but still held everything together. And suddenly, the attention she's getting from others feels empty. Because even if another person is texting her, complimenting her, liking her photos, none of it hits the same. They feel like noise. You felt like home. And that's when it becomes more than just missing you. Now it's disorientation. She doesn't understand why this silence feels heavier than arguments ever did. She doesn't understand why your absence is louder than any attention she's getting. But deep down, she knows it's because you were the real thing. You weren't trying to impress. You weren't just passing time. You were emotionally present in a world where most people are distracted. And now that presence is gone, not pulled away with resentment, but because you've moved on quietly without needing anyone to notice. She's just gone now. She's checking old messages, not to respond, but to relive, to try to feel something again from words you wrote back when you were still available. Back when she still felt in control. That's when she starts doing the one thing that breaks her own ego. Blaming herself, she begins analyzing where it shifted, what she said, what she didn't say, the signal she gave, the opportunities she missed to show she cared. Before, your silence made her regret staying quiet. It's no longer about you disappearing. It's about realizing you gave her every chance, and she didn't take them. That realization stays with her because it wasn't you who stopped communicating. It was her silence that started the disconnect, and your silence that finally finished it. And now she's not just uncomfortable. She's haunted by the possibility that you've already made peace with never hearing from her again, that you've already let go, and that somewhere out there, someone else might now be receiving the energy she thought she had a monopoly on. That possibility rewires everything she thought she knew about you, and it redefines what losing you actually feels like. By day 7 and beyond, something else starts happening, something subtle but powerful. The energy shifts. She starts to feel like she's no longer watching from a distance. She's now on the outside of your life looking in. Before, you were always within reach, emotionally, mentally. You were accessible. Even if you didn't speak, there was this quiet thread that still connected you to her. But now, it's as if that thread has been cut, and what's left behind isn't bitterness, it's mystery. That's what really unnerves her, the mystery of not knowing what you're thinking, of not knowing whether she still holds a place in your life, of not knowing if this version of you, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't flinch, doesn't fold, is here to stay. Because here's what you need to understand. Most women don't fear rejection. What they fear is being forgotten. And your silence is starting to feel like an eraser, as if you've mentally packed up, emotionally moved on, and closed the chapter without needing to explain a thing. That level of emotional control is rare, and it's more attractive than any words you could have sent. She thought silence would make her feel empowered. Instead, it's making her question everything. She questions if she misread you, if she assumed you'd always be there because of how patient, calm, and emotionally giving you were in the past. But now all of that feels like a memory. One she doesn't know how to get back, one she doesn't even know if she's allowed to get back because you're no longer signaling availability. You're not giving her the same energetic access. You're not in the background waiting to be noticed. You're just living. And that's what flips everything. The moment she senses you're no longer emotionally tethered to her, she starts doubting her ability to influence you. That's when she starts pulling at invisible threads. Maybe she watches your story and quickly deletes her view. Maybe she sends a vague post that sounds like it's about someone missing someone. Maybe she tells herself she's over it, but checks your profile 2 hours later and still nothing from you. That lack of response, that's not silence anymore. That's power. It's the kind of quiet that feels deafening because it comes from a person who finally realizes they don't need closure. They don't need validation. They don't need her to understand why they left, because they're no longer seeking resolution with her. They've found peace within themselves. And once a woman feels that kind of shift, once she feels the distance and knows it's not going away, just because she finally feels something, that's when it really starts to hurt, because for the first time, she's the one hoping you'll come back. At this point, something strange starts to happen in her mind. She begins rewriting the past, not because she wants to lie to herself, but because your absence is forcing her to see things through a lens she never used before. All the times you were patient, she now sees as rare. All the times you listened when she vented, supported her when she was unsure, showed up without being asked, she now reinterprets as value she dismissed without ever really understanding it. This isn't guilt, it's realization. She starts noticing how fast other people move on, how few of them actually care, how many conversations feel surface level, how many guys show interest but lack depth. And the contrast begins to sting because, while you've stayed silent, she's been paying attention. And the more she compares, the more she realizes she had something real and didn't treat it like it was. What's crazy is she won't talk to anyone about this. Not her friends, not her family, because to explain it out loud would mean admitting she underestimated you. And pride. Pride hates that more than anything, but it doesn't change the feeling because now, even if she's surrounded by options, attention, and distractions, she can't shake this truth. None of it feels like you. No one else moves with your calmness. No one else brings peace just by being present. No one else makes her question herself the way you do. Not because you're playing games, but because your silence is so honest that it forces her to reflect. And that's the difference. You're not trying to make her miss you. You're not doing things for a reaction. You're just done performing. And she's not used to that. She's used to being chased, admired, and in control. But now, every passing day without you chips away at the illusion that she still has power in this dynamic. You've taken it back, not by force, not with anger, but with stillness. And the irony? Stillness is what shakes her the most. Because while you've said nothing, you've said everything. She feels it in every scroll, every quiet moment, every thought she thought would pass but keeps circling back. You're no longer just someone she used to talk to. You're now the standard. And when a man becomes the standard, it doesn't matter how many come after him. They all fall short because none of them make her feel what silence from you makes her feel. Now, we're past the surface. She's not just missing you anymore. She's questioning her choices. And that's where the pain sharpens, not because you disappeared, but because you disappeared with dignity. You didn't storm off. You didn't try to prove a point. You didn't leave a long message explaining your worth. You just withdrew, silently, fully. And now she's realizing something brutal. She was so focused on whether she felt chosen, she never stopped to ask if you felt appreciated. That hits differently because when a man walks away out of self-respect, not ego, it creates a space most women are completely unprepared for. It's not loud, it's not bitter, it's just clean. And that kind of exit lingers. Now every guy she meets has to pass a silent test. Can he hold space like you did? Can he stay grounded without needing attention? Can he listen, lead, protect, and bring peace without losing himself in doing it? Most can't, and she knows it. But here's the twist. She may never reach out. She may never say a word because pride will let her suffer in silence long before it lets her admit she was wrong. She might post as if she's healed, act like she's glowing, throw around phrases like protecting my energy or I'm in my soft era, but inside she's wondering how she let a man like you go. And that question, it's louder than your silence ever was. Because now she's not just haunted by what you were, she's haunted by who you became without her. She's not watching the same man she used to know. She's watching a man who evolved in her absence, a man who outgrew the dynamic she once felt so confident in. A man who no longer needs closure because his healing spoke for itself. And while she's wondering if she still has access to you, you're already somewhere else. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually unavailable in the best possible way. Because now she's not the reason you wake up with urgency. You are. Your growth is your urgency. Your standards are, and that's the part of the story she never saw coming. She expected distance, not detachment. She expected silence, not peace. But now, she's witnessing what real self-worth looks like, and it has nothing to prove. Here's the part no one really talks about. She won't remember you for how many times you texted her back, or how many compliments you gave her, or how fast you replied. She'll remember you for the moment you stopped. Not out of pettiness, not to play mind games, but because you reached that rare stage where your peace became more important than her presence. That kind of shift, it's not easy to understand at first, but over time, it's unforgettable. She'll remember the man who no longer chased, the man who didn't get angry, didn't explain himself, didn't post for attention. You just lived, you kept going, and you didn't need her to notice for you to keep evolving. That's what separates you from the rest, because any guy can react, but very few can walk away with composure and never look back. And even fewer can stay consistent in that silence long enough for her to finally feel the full weight of what she lost. Because when your presence was constant, it was easy to overlook. But now that it's gone, it echoes in ways that cling to her days, her thoughts, and her conversations. It shows up when she talks to someone new, and the conversation feels forced. When she looks good, but no longer cares about impressing the world. When she laughs in public, but feels a strange emptiness when she's alone again. Because somewhere in the quiet, she feels it, that you gave her something no one else did, the choice to keep you. And she chose wrong. And now it's not about getting you back. It's about wondering if a man like you ever truly existed, or if she only got to meet him because she didn't realize he was the lesson. And you You're not bitter. You're not waiting. Because the truth is, you didn't just leave her life. You leveled up so high that her old version of you can't even be reached anymore. That's the ending she never expected. And that's the peace you earned in silence. If this message hit home, it's because you're becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. Like the video to stay on that path, drop a comment if you're walking it now, and subscribe, because your silence isn't weakness, it's growth.